Have you ever wondered about the wisdom of King Solomon, described in the Bible as the wisest of all men? King Solomon, the son of David, reigned over Israel around 3,000 years ago, and his wisdom, wealth, and works continue to captivate us to this day. King Solomon's reign was marked by prosperity and peace, and he was renowned for his wisdom and discernment. One of his most significant accomplishments was the construction of the Temple in Jerusalem, an architectural marvel that stood as a testament to his dedication to God and his people. But perhaps what really set Solomon apart is his wisdom, which was granted to him by God himself. The Bible tells us that Solomon asked God for an understanding heart to judge his people, and God, pleased with his request, bestowed upon him a wisdom that surpassed all others. This wisdom was not just intellectual knowledge, but also included discernment, understanding, and the ability to make wise decisions. One of the most famous stories demonstrating Solomon's wisdom is his judgment in the case of two women claiming to be the mother of a baby. When presented with this predicament, Solomon proposed to divide the baby in two, each woman to receive half. His solution was so shocking, the real mother revealed herself by pleading for the baby's life. Thus, Solomon's wisdom shone through, leading to the rightful mother being identified. But the wisdom of Solomon was not only demonstrated in difficult court cases. It was also evident in the prosperity of his kingdom, his writings, and his interactions with other leaders. His wisdom was so renowned that it attracted the attention of the powerful Queen of Sheba, who traveled from her kingdom to test Solomon's wisdom. However, there is another fascinating story about King Solomon, one that involves an encounter with a powerful queen. This encounter not only tested Solomon's wisdom, but also showcased the splendor of his kingdom and the blessings that God had bestowed upon him. The Queen of Sheba, intrigued by tales of Solomon's wisdom, decided to test him herself. With a mind full of questions and a heart full of curiosity, she embarked on a journey from her own kingdom, a journey that would lead her to the heart of Solomon's realm, Jerusalem. Her caravan was a magnificent sight to behold. Laden with camels, it bore the richness of her land, carrying spices that filled the air with exotic aromas, gold that shimmered under the desert sun, and precious stones that sparkled like the night sky. The Queen of Sheba was not driven by mere curiosity or the desire for adventure. She was a woman on a quest. She had heard tales of Solomon's wisdom, of his discernment, and of his profound understanding of life and its complexities. She had heard stories of his wealth and the prosperity of his kingdom, yet she wanted to experience it all firsthand, to see the truth behind the tales. She wanted to test his wisdom, to challenge his discernment, to push the boundaries of his understanding. Her gifts were not just offerings of respect, but also symbols of her own wealth and prosperity. The spices, the gold, the precious stones were all testament to her kingdom's affluence. Yet they were also a subtle challenge, a silent question. Was Solomon's kingdom as prosperous, as wealthy, as the tales suggested? The Queen of Sheba was a seeker. She sought answers to her questions, solutions to her dilemmas, and wisdom to guide her. She yearned to understand the depth of Solomon's wisdom, to witness the splendor of his kingdom, to experience the prosperity that God had bestowed upon him. Her journey was not just a physical one, traversing the harsh desert and traveling miles on end, but also a spiritual one. She was on a quest for wisdom, for understanding, for enlightenment. She was on a quest for truth. Upon meeting Solomon, she presented him with difficult questions, a true test of wisdom. Her quest had led her to Solomon, and now it was time to unravel the enigma that was King Solomon. Solomon, with his renowned wisdom, did not disappoint the queen. As the Queen of Sheba laid out her riddles and inquiries, Solomon, in his profound wisdom, unraveled each one. His answers were not just correct, but they were filled with such insight and understanding that the queen was left in awe. The wisdom that Solomon demonstrated was not born out of his own intellect, but rather, it was a divine gift from God, bestowed upon him because he had asked not for wealth or power, but for wisdom to discern between right and wrong. But Solomon's wisdom was not the only thing that left the queen astounded. She was also taken aback by the splendor and prosperity of his kingdom. The grandeur of his palace, the abundance of his table, the orderliness of his officials, the devotion of his servants, and the offerings he made at the temple. All these were a testament to Solomon's wise and just rule. Perhaps the most remarkable of all was the temple Solomon had built for the Lord. This magnificent structure was not just a place of worship, but a symbol of Solomon's devotion to God. The temple was a manifestation of Solomon's wisdom and the blessings that God had bestowed upon him. It was a testament to the fact that wisdom, when coupled with righteousness, leads to prosperity and peace. As the queen took in the splendor of Solomon's kingdom, she was overwhelmed. She was not just impressed by his wisdom or the wealth of his kingdom, but by the realization that Solomon's greatness was a reflection of God's favor. It was clear to her that Solomon's wisdom and prosperity were not earned, but were divine gifts given to him by a gracious and loving God. And so, the Queen of Sheba left the encounter not just impressed, but overwhelmed by Solomon's wisdom and the blessings of his kingdom. She left with a deeper understanding of the power of wisdom and the blessings that come from seeking God's favor. She left with a newfound respect for Solomon and a renewed faith in the God who had bestowed upon him such wisdom and prosperity. Overwhelmed by Solomon's wisdom, the Queen of Sheba could not help but praise him. This was no ordinary praise, but an acknowledgement of a wisdom so profound it left her in awe. The queen, a formidable leader in her own right, recognized the depth of Solomon's discernment. She saw a wisdom that was more than an accumulation of knowledge, but a divine insight that only comes from the favor of God. She remarked, "When I saw the wisdom of Solomon, the palace he had built, the food on his table, the seating of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings he made at the temple of the Lord, I was overwhelmed." This was not merely a comment on Solomon's wealth or the grandeur of his kingdom, but a recognition of the divine favor that rested upon him. Indeed, the Queen of Sheba was a witness to the blessings that God had bestowed upon Solomon. She saw firsthand the splendor of his kingdom, the prosperity of his people, and the magnificence of the temple he had built for the Lord. She saw the manifestation of God's favor in Solomon's life and in his rule. But more than the material wealth and the grand structures, it was Solomon's wisdom that left the greatest impression on the queen. She acknowledged that the reports she had heard about Solomon did not even begin to capture the reality of his greatness. It was his wisdom, his discernment, and his understanding that truly set him apart. In acknowledging Solomon's wisdom, the Queen of Sheba was also acknowledging the source of that wisdom, the favor of God that rested upon him. She recognized that Solomon's wisdom was more than an individual attribute. It was a divine gift, a testament to God's faithfulness and provision for those who seek wisdom and righteousness. This encounter serves as a testament to the wisdom and wealth that God had bestowed upon Solomon. It reminds us of the blessings that come from seeking God's wisdom above all else, and the influence that such wisdom can have even in distant lands. King Solomon's reign remains a powerful example of God's faithfulness. His story is a rich tapestry woven with threads of wisdom, wealth, and divine favor. As we delve into the legacy of King Solomon, we find a man whose influence extended far beyond his kingdom's borders, reaching even the remote kingdom of Sheba. King Solomon was more than just a wise and wealthy ruler. He was a beacon of divine wisdom, a testament to the blessings God bestows upon those who seek his wisdom and righteousness. From his judicious resolution in the case of two women claiming to be the mother of a baby, to his enlightening encounter with the Queen of Sheba, Solomon's wisdom shone brightly, a radiant testament to the divine wisdom he sought and received. And what of the blessings entrusted to him? Solomon's wealth was not merely in gold or spices, but in the prosperity of his kingdom, the reverence of his people, and the awe of foreign dignitaries. His wealth was the embodiment of God's favor, a tangible sign of the blessings God bestows on those who walk in his ways. But perhaps the most enduring part of Solomon's legacy is the importance he placed on seeking God's wisdom. Solomon understood that true wisdom and understanding come not from human intellect, but from God himself. And so he sought God's wisdom above all else, a quest that led to a reign marked by justice, prosperity, and peace. The legacy of King Solomon serves as a reminder to us all. A reminder that the pursuit of God's wisdom brings blessings beyond measure. A reminder that God's faithfulness is unwavering to those who seek his righteousness. As we conclude our exploration of King Solomon's legacy, let's carry with us the lessons of his life. Let's endeavor to seek God's wisdom in all we do, and in doing so, invite his blessings into our lives. This video was made possible by Michael Hopkins, founder of Jehovah's House of Saints Homeless Mission. For more inspiring stories and messages, visit us at jehovahsaint.com.